Nero was alone on the icy planet of Vetra. The cold wind blew hard and sharp against her skin. She pulled her thin cloak tighter around her shoulders and looked up at the dark sky. The clouds were thick and full of electric light. A storm was coming, a storm like none she had seen before. Nero was a Zelvan scout. Her people were strong and brave, but they did not live on this cold, empty world. Nero had been sent here to explore and learn. She had traveled far from home, and now her small ship waited nearby, damaged and silent. The storm had caught her by surprise, and she knew she had little time. She moved quickly toward the shelter she had seen from the ship. It was an old human outpost. Humans had once tried to live on Vetra, but most had left because of the cold and danger. This outpost was one of the last places still standing. Nero hoped it would keep her safe from the storm. As she walked, the wind grew stronger. Ice crystals burned her cheeks and made her eyes water. She stumbled once but did not fall. She had to reach the shelter before the storm hit full force. Her heart beat fast, but she kept moving. When she reached the outpost, she pushed the heavy door open. It groaned and creaked, but it held. Inside, the air was dry and cold, but it was better than the storm outside. Nero looked around the small room. Old machines and broken tools were scattered on the floor. Dust covered everything, but there was one thing that caught her eye: a fireplace. It was strange to see a fireplace here, on this cold, empty world. Nero had heard stories about humans and their fires. They said humans used fire not only to warm their bodies but also to warm their hearts. Nero had never understood that idea fully. To her people, strength and skill were the best way to survive. But something about the fire called to her. She found some dry wood and tried to light a fire. The first sparks did not catch. The wind outside howled through the cracks in the walls. Nero worked carefully, trying again and again. Slowly, small flames began to grow. Warm light filled the room. The fire gave her hope. Nero sat near the hearth and watched the flames dance. She thought about her home, the green forests and warm sun she had left behind. Vetra was so different. The ice and cold seemed endless. But here, in the fire's glow, she felt a small piece of home. Suddenly, the storm outside grew louder. Lightning flashed across the sky, and thunder rolled through the mountains. Nero felt the walls of the outpost shake. She knew the storm was dangerous. She wrapped her cloak around her and prepared for a long night. Hours passed. The fire burned low, but Nero kept it alive. She listened to the storm's wild song and thought about what she would do next. Her ship was broken, and no help was coming. She was alone on a cold, forgotten world. Then, in the quiet between thunder, she heard a sound. Footsteps, soft but steady, coming closer. Nero stood quickly, her hand moving to the small weapon at her side. She was ready to defend herself. The door opened slowly, and a man stepped inside. He was tall and strong, with dark hair and clear eyes that looked tired but kind. His clothes were worn, and his face was covered in frost. Nero's heart beat faster, but she did not lower her guard. The man spoke in a language she almost did not understand. His voice was calm, and he made a small gesture of peace. Nero nodded slowly and lowered her weapon. "I am Kale," the man said simply. "I was caught in the storm too. I have no place to go." Nero studied him. She did not know if she could trust him, but she understood his words. She moved aside and pointed to the fire. Kale smiled and stepped closer to the warmth. Together, they sat near the hearth. The storm outside raged on, but inside the outpost, there was a small light, a light of hope. Nero looked at Kale and felt something she had never felt before. Maybe she was not so alone after all. The fire crackled softly, and the cold night waited outside. But inside, two strangers from different worlds shared warmth and a quiet promise. The storm had brought them together, and in the fire's glow, a new story was beginning. The storm outside showed no sign of slowing. Winds howled around the old human outpost, and the walls creaked under the pressure. Inside, Nira and Kale sat near the fire, its warm light flickering softly across their faces. For a moment, the cold seemed far away. Nira studied Kale quietly. He was unlike anyone she had ever met. His skin was pale but healthy, his eyes held a calm strength. He looked tired but determined. Nira felt a strange comfort in his presence, though she still did not know much about him. Kale looked around the room, taking in the old machines and tools. "This place is old," he said in a soft voice. "Humans tried to live here a long time ago. Most left when the storms became too strong." Nira nodded. "The storm is worse now. I did not expect it to be so dangerous." Kale smiled faintly. "Vetra is not easy. But this fire is special. It is not just heat. It is hope." Nira looked at the flames and felt something warm grow inside her chest. She had never thought about hope like this before. To her, survival was about skill and strength, not feelings. But here, near the fire, she understood a little more. "I will help keep the fire," Nira said quietly. "It is important." Kale nodded, grateful. Together, they gathered wood from a small pile near the wall. The wood was dry but limited. They knew the fire could not burn forever. Still, it was enough to keep them warm for now. As the fire crackled, Kale told Nira about the humans who had once lived on Vetra. They built homes like this, tried to make a life. But the storms were too much. Many left. "I was part of a crew sent to find new worlds, but we lost our way." Nira listened closely. She thought about her own mission and how far she had come from Zelva, her home planet. Both of them were far from where they should be. Both were lost in this cold world. "Why did you stay?" Nira asked. Kale looked into the fire and smiled softly. "I did not want to give up. I hoped someone would find me. Or maybe I hoped to find something new." Nira felt her heart beat faster. She understood that feeling. The desire to find something more, even when all seemed lost. The night grew deeper, but inside the outpost, the fire kept the darkness away. Nira and Kale shared stories about their lives, their worlds, and the things they missed. Nira spoke of Zelva's green forests and warm rivers. Kale talked about the stars and the ships that carried humans across space. Their words built a bridge between two very different worlds. Nira realized that though they looked different and came from far away places, they shared dreams and fears. At one point, Kale reached into his bag and took out a small, simple device. It was a communicator, broken but still familiar. "I have tried to send a message for help," he said. "But the storm blocks everything." Nira looked at the device. It seemed strange and complicated. She wished she could help, but her knowledge of human technology was limited. "We will fix it," she said firmly. "Together." Kale smiled, hope shining in his eyes. For the first time since the storm began, Nira felt the cold inside her start to fade. The fire was not the only thing warming her now. Suddenly, a loud crack came from the wall. The storm's power shook the outpost again. Both Nira and Kale stood quickly. The shelter had held so far, but the storm was fierce and unyielding. Nira moved to check the windows. Ice had formed on the glass, making it hard to see outside. The wind pushed and pulled, threatening to tear the old structure apart. "We must prepare," Kale said, his voice steady. "If the walls break, we will need to find another place." Nira nodded, feeling a new strength rising within her. She was no longer just a lone scout lost on a frozen world. She had someone beside her, and together they could face the storm. They gathered what supplies they could find: food, water, tools, and made a plan. The fire must stay alive, but they also needed to be ready to move if the outpost became unsafe. As they worked, Nira caught herself looking at Kale more than once. There was kindness in his eyes, a promise that she was not alone. The fire had brought them together, but something more was growing in the warmth between them. That night, as the storm roared outside like a wild beast, Nira and Kale sat close by the hearth. They did not speak much, but the silence was not empty. It was full of trust, hope, and the quiet comfort of two hearts finding each other. Nira felt a soft thought in her mind, a small voice she had not heard before. Maybe the storm was not just a danger. Maybe it was a beginning. The fire glowed brightly, casting shadows on the walls. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside, the hearth was a place of safety. Nira and Kale knew the night would be long, but they would face it together. The fire was more than warmth now. It was a promise. A promise that even in the coldest and darkest places, life and hope could grow. The storm had passed, leaving the icy world of Vetra quiet and cold. The sky was clear, showing distant stars shining like diamonds. Inside the old human outpost, Nira sat by the fire, feeling the warmth on her skin. The fire was low, but it still gave her comfort. She thought about the night before. The storm had been fierce, but they had survived. The strange man, Kale, had stayed by her side. For the first time since she arrived on Vetra, she did not feel alone. Kale was different from anyone Nira had met. He was human, like the stories she had heard. Humans were said to be fragile, but Kale showed strength. He had survived the storm, just like her. And more than that, he had a kind heart. Kale sat across the room, repairing a small tool. His hands moved carefully, skilled and steady. Nira watched him and wondered how he had come to be on this frozen world. She wanted to know his story. The fire crackled softly, and the outpost felt warmer than before. The silence between them was comfortable now. They did not need many words to understand each other. Both had faced loneliness and fear. Now, together, they shared hope. Suddenly, Kale looked up and smiled. "We should try to fix my ship," he said. "If we can repair it, we might be able to leave this place." Nira nodded. "I want to help. I want to learn." Kale stood and stretched. "Good. We will need tools and parts. Some might still be in the hangar." Nira followed him out into the cold morning. The sky was bright with pale sunlight, but the air was still sharp and biting. They walked carefully toward Kale's ship, hidden behind a ridge of ice and rock. The ship was small and battered. Its hull was scratched and dented from storms and falls. Kale sighed as he examined it. "It will take time to fix. But it is not impossible." Nira reached out and touched the cold metal. She could feel the promise of flight, of freedom. Maybe the ship would carry them both home, or to a new place where they could belong. Together, they searched the hangar for tools and parts. The building was dusty and cold, but they worked well as a team. Nira learned how to use some of the human tools, and Kale taught her patiently. As they worked, Nira noticed something about Kale. He did not complain about the cold or the hard work. He did not give up. Instead, he smiled and encouraged her. "I like your spirit," Kale said one day. "You are stronger than you know." Nira felt a warmth spread through her chest. She was proud to hear those words. It was not easy to survive on Vetra, but she was doing it. And she was not alone. Days passed, and the ship slowly began to look better. The engines were cleaned, the panels repaired, and the circuits tested. Kale's hope grew, and Nira's too. One evening, as the sun set behind the icy mountains, they sat outside the outpost. The sky was painted with colors Nira had never seen: soft pinks and deep purples. She felt peaceful for the first time in a long while. Kale broke the silence. "I have traveled many worlds, but I never expected to find someone like you here. Nero looked at him, surprised. Why me? Because you are brave and kind. You have a fire inside that matches this one, he said, pointing to the small campfire between them. Nero smiled shyly. I did not know I had that fire. You do. And it makes me want to stay. The word surprised Nero. She did not understand everything about human feelings, but she knew this was important. The night grew colder, and they moved closer to the fire. For a moment, the distance between their worlds seemed smaller. Two strangers, from very different places, shared a quiet hope beneath the stars. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed from the outpost. Nero jumped up and ran inside. Kale followed quickly. The sound came from the communication device Kale had tried to fix before. It crackled and sparked, and then a faint voice came through. Help, stranded. Vetra, the message was broken but clear. Kale's eyes widened. Someone else is here. Nero felt her heart race. They were not alone. Together, they worked to make the signal stronger. Maybe help was coming after all. For the first time since Nero arrived, the future felt less uncertain. The fire was not the only light in the darkness. Kale smiled at Nero. We have a chance. Nero nodded, hope shining in her eyes. The storm had brought them together. Now, it might bring rescue too. The night was still, but inside the outpost, the fire burned bright. Two hearts, one human and one elven, found warmth and promise on the cold, distant world of Vetra. The soft glow of the fire lit the small room inside the outpost. Outside, Vetra's cold wind whispered against the walls, but inside, Nero and Kale found warmth not just from the fire, but from each other's presence. They sat close, the silence between them full of unspoken thoughts. Kale looked at Nero with gentle curiosity. Tell me about your home, he said softly. What is Zelva like? Nero smiled and leaned back against the wall. Zelva is warm and green. It has forests where tall trees touch the sky. Rivers flow through the land, clear and bright. The sun shines many days, and the air smells of flowers. Kale closed his eyes and imagined such a place. His own home had stars and ships and wide deserts. It sounds beautiful, he said. It is, Nero said. But I left because I wanted to see more. To learn what was beyond our skies. Kale nodded. I understand that feeling. Humans are curious too. We explore, even when it is hard or dangerous. Nero's eyes grew thoughtful. Sometimes, I wonder why we take such risks. Why do you humans keep searching, even when the answers are unknown? Kale smiled softly. Because hope is stronger than fear. Because we want to belong. And because sometimes, we find more than we expect. Nero looked into the fire and felt a warmth spread inside her. She did not fully understand human hope, but she knew what it was to want more. They shared stories long into the night. Kale spoke of stars and distant planets, of people who built cities in the sky and traveled across galaxies. Nero told tales of Zelvan honor, of battles fought to protect their world, and of the quiet beauty of her home. Their words wove together like the fire's flickering flames, different yet connected. They learned about each other's dreams and fears. Despite their different worlds, they found common ground. As the fire burned low, Nero spoke quietly. Do you think there is a place for us? For someone like me and someone like you? Kale looked at her, surprised by the question. I don't know. But I want to try. Nero smiled shyly. I want that too. For a moment, the cold outside seemed less important. Inside, the warmth of the fire and the growing bond between them filled the space. Days passed, and the two worked together to repair the communication device. It was slow and difficult, but their hope never faded. Kale taught Nero how to connect wires and read signals. Nira helped by using her knowledge of Zelvan technology to understand the strange human device. Their friendship grew stronger. They began to trust each other more, sharing small moments of laughter and comfort. Kale showed Nira how to prepare simple human meals, and Nira taught Kale some Zelvan words and customs. One evening, as they rested near the fire, Kale asked, "What do you miss most about home?" Nira thought for a moment. "The people. My family and friends. Their voices, their laughter. I miss belonging." Kale nodded. "I miss that too. Sometimes, in space, you feel very small and very far away." Nira reached out and touched Kale's hand gently. "Maybe we can find belonging together." Kale looked into her eyes and smiled. "Maybe we already have." The fire warmed their hands, and their hearts beat quietly in the cold night. Suddenly, the communicator crackled to life again. This time, the message was clearer. "Help needed. Survivors on Vetra. Coordinates sent." Kale and Nira exchanged hopeful glances. Rescue might be near. Nira stood and looked outside. The storm was gone, and the stars shone bright. For the first time, the future felt open and full of promise. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder. "We have come far, Nira. Together, we can face whatever comes next." Nira smiled. Together. They returned to the fire, ready to wait and prepare. The night was long, but with shared stories and shared dreams, the cold world of Vetra felt a little warmer. In that small outpost, two beings from different worlds found hope. Hope that love and friendship could grow even in the most distant places. The days after the storm felt calm, but Nira and Kale knew the cold world of Vetra was still dangerous. The message from the communicator gave them hope, but it also brought new worries. They needed to be ready for whatever might come next. Inside the outpost, the fire burned steadily. Nira and Kale worked side by side, fixing what they could and preparing for the future. The quiet moments they shared were precious, but deep inside, both felt a storm growing. Nira looked at Kale one evening as he checked the ship's engine. His face was tired, and his hands moved slowly. She wanted to say something, but the words stayed inside her. Kale noticed her watching. He stopped and looked up, giving her a small smile. "I am worried," he said honestly. "What if the rescue does not come? What if we are stuck here?" Nira nodded. "I think about that too. I feel like I should be strong. But sometimes, I feel afraid." Kale moved closer. "It is okay to be afraid. It means we care." Nira smiled faintly. "You make fear sound less scary." They stood together, the firelight warming their faces. But inside, both knew the storm was not just outside anymore. Nira thought about her life before Vetra. She had been trained to be brave and steady. To hide her feelings and never show weakness. But with Kale, things were different. She wanted to be honest, to share the fears she kept hidden. One night, as the cold wind whispered outside, Nira spoke quietly. "Kale, what if I am not enough? What if I cannot protect you or myself?" Kale took her hand gently. "You are more than enough. You are brave and kind. I trust you." Nira looked into his eyes and felt the weight inside her lighten. "Thank you." Kale smiled. "We face this storm together. No matter what happens." Their hands stayed joined, a small but strong promise between them. The next day, as they worked on the communicator, another loud crack sounded from the outpost's walls. The cold world was not done testing them. Ice formed quickly on the windows, and the wind pushed hard against the shelter. Nira and Kale rushed to reinforce the walls with old metal sheets and tools. The storm was fierce, but their teamwork made the outpost stronger. They moved quickly, their trust growing with every shared task. As they worked, Kale paused and looked at Nira. "You are amazing," he said simply. Nira smiled, feeling proud. We are amazing. Together. When the storm passed, the fire was still burning. The outpost stood firm. But both knew more challenges lay ahead. That night, Neera sat near the fire and thought about her feelings. The storm inside her was like the storm outside, wild, but real. She wanted to be brave, but she also wanted to be honest. Kale joined her, sitting close. "You do not have to be perfect," he said softly. "I like you just as you are." Neera's heart warmed. For the first time, she felt safe to be herself. The cold world outside was still harsh and unforgiving, but inside the outpost, something new was growing: trust, hope, and something deeper. They talked quietly late into the night, sharing fears and dreams. The fire burned low, but the warmth between them grew stronger. Neera knew the storm outside would return one day. But with Kale by her side, she felt ready to face it. Together, they were no longer just survivors. They were friends. Maybe even more. The cold night passed, and dawn brought soft light to the frozen world. The fire's glow faded, but the promise it held stayed alive in their hearts. Neera whispered softly, "I am ready for whatever comes next." Kale smiled and took her hand. "So am I." In the quiet of the outpost, two souls found strength in each other. The storm within was fierce, but their bond was fiercer. And in the cold, distant world of Vetra, hope was alive. Days passed quietly on Vetra. The cold remained, but the storm was gone for now. Inside the outpost, Neera and Kale worked every day to repair the communication device. It was their only hope to call for help and find a way off this lonely world. The signal was weak at first. Sometimes it crackled with strange noises. Sometimes it was silent. But slowly, with patience and skill, the signal grew stronger. Kale spent hours tuning the machine. Neera helped by sorting parts and making careful notes. They worked well together, each learning from the other. One morning, Kale looked at the device and smiled. "The signal is stronger," he said. "We may be close to contacting someone." Neera felt a thrill of hope. She had not dared to believe rescue was near before. Now, it felt real. That night, they sat by the fire, waiting. The outpost was quiet except for the soft hum of the communicator. Suddenly, a voice came through the static. It was faint but clear. "This is the ship Ardent. We received your signal. Sending help." Kale's eyes shone with relief. "Help is coming." Neera smiled, feeling tears in her eyes. After all the cold and danger, after the lonely nights, rescue was finally near. But the moment was not just about hope. It was about the journey they had shared. The fire in the outpost had kept them warm, but the fire between them had grown stronger. Kale reached out and took Neera's hand. "We have faced much together. You saved me, and I saved you." Neera squeezed his hand. "We are stronger because of each other." The night passed with plans. The rescue team would arrive soon. They needed to prepare the outpost and the ship for departure. The next days were busy. Neera and Kale fixed the ship's systems, gathered supplies, and cleaned the outpost. They worked quickly, knowing help was coming. As they prepared, Neera thought about the future. She had come to Vetra lost and alone. Now, she was ready to leave with Kale, her friend, her companion. One evening, as they rested, Kale looked at Neera and said, "When we leave Vetra, will you come with me? To see the stars, to find new worlds." Neera smiled softly. "Yes. I want to see everything with you." Kale's smile grew. "Then we will face the unknown together." The bond between them was clear and strong. They had found more than survival. They had found trust, friendship, and something that felt like hope. Finally, the day came when the rescue ship appeared in the sky. It was large and bright, shining like a beacon of safety. Nira and Kale stood outside the outpost, watching the ship land. The cold wind blew, but their hearts were warm. As the rescue team approached, Kale turned to Nira. "We made it," he said. Nira nodded, feeling a deep joy. Together. The team greeted them warmly and began checking the ship and outpost. Soon, Nira and Kale would leave Vetra behind. But before they left, Kale looked at Nira and said, "This is not the end. It is the beginning." Nira smiled, feeling the truth in his words. They stepped onto the rescue ship, ready to face new adventures. The fire on Vetra had brought them together, and now it was time to carry that fire to the stars. As the ship lifted off, Nira looked back at the frozen world. It was cold and lonely, but it had given her something she never expected. A chance. A friend. A future. And she knew that no matter where they went, the warmth they found here would travel with them. The rescue ship soared above the icy world of Vetra, leaving behind the cold and silence. Inside the warm cabin, Nira and Kale sat side by side, watching the stars streak past the windows. The endless darkness of space was beautiful, but more than that, it was full of promise. Nira felt her heart beating fast. For so long, she had been lost in the storm, both outside on Vetra and inside herself. Now, with Kale beside her, the storm was fading. The future was wide open, waiting for them to step forward. Kale smiled at her. "We made it through the storm. Now we can find where we belong." Nira looked at him and nodded. "I want that. I want to see the stars, to learn, to live." The ship's engines hummed softly. The crew moved calmly around them, but Nira and Kale felt like the whole universe had stopped for this moment. The captain approached and greeted them warmly. "You are lucky to have each other. Many get lost in space, but together, you found hope." Nira smiled, feeling the truth in those words. She looked at Kale, her friend and companion, and knew that together, they could face anything. Days passed as the ship traveled through the stars. Nira and Kale spent time learning about each other's worlds, sharing stories and dreams. The cold of Vetra was far behind, replaced by the warm glow of friendship. One evening, Kale took Nira to the observation deck. The stars shone bright, more than she had ever seen. The galaxy was alive with light and mystery. "Look," Kale said softly. "There are endless worlds out there. We can explore them together." Nira's eyes sparkled with wonder. "I want to see them all." Kale smiled. "And I want to see them with you." In that moment, the distance between their worlds seemed to disappear. Two hearts from different places had found a shared path. The journey was not without challenges. The crew faced storms in space and unknown dangers. But through every trial, Nira and Kale supported each other. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. Nira realized that she had changed. The girl who arrived on Vetra lost and afraid had become someone brave and full of hope. Kale had helped her see that strength comes from trusting others and opening one's heart. One day, as the ship approached a new planet, Kale asked, "What do you want most?" Nira thought carefully. "I want a place to call home. Not just a world, but a place where I belong with you." Kale took her hand gently. "Then we will find that place. Together." The ship landed on a beautiful world filled with green forests, clear rivers, and warm sunlight. It reminded Nira of home but also felt new and exciting. As they stepped onto the soft ground, Nira took a deep breath. The air was fresh and alive. She smiled at Kale. "This could be our new beginning." Kale nodded. "A place where the fire we found on Vetra can burn bright." They looked out at the horizon, ready to build a future. The storm was behind them, and the dawn was ahead. Nira knew that no matter where life took them, they had each other. Together, they had faced cold storms, loneliness, and fear. Together, they had found hope and love. The fire that had warmed them on Vetra would now guide them through the stars. And so, under the bright new sun, two souls from different worlds began a new journey, a journey of friendship, trust, and endless possibilities. The end was not an ending at all. It was the start of everything.